This is a complete violation of United Nations Charter. You are deployed there, and one of your member is creating a China-Pakistan economic corridor through the same disputed area. How can?
Correct.
How the other members of United Nations Security Councils are watching this? How they are allowing this to happen? Earlier, what was happening that UN forces were allowed to cross the line of control from India to Pakistan side. The role of United Nations Military Observer Group has been to observe and report to the UN Security Council. And this raises the genuinity of the United Nations and also on its important member, which is China. Stop the war between the two countries, then what is the fun you're doing? Why you are deployed here? Place where terrorists are grown, terrorists are patronized, and from there they have been creating the terrorism all across the world. I am not seeing that the UN is giving any holistic approach to look at the problems in a holistic manner and solve it. Any clause of the UN Security Council has not been implemented in the last 70 years. And we have fought at least 4 wars with Pakistan. It has completely proven that UN MOGIP's deployment on the both side of India and Pakistan on the line of control is unnecessary, is useless, and they should be sent back.
Okay. Good morning from Diplomacy Direct. This is yet another wonderful session where we talk to the experts, and the segment is called Expert Talks. And today we have our topic that is lethargic diplomacy. We are going to talk on the UN Observership in Kashmir, the UN MOGIP. So folks and followers of Diplomacy Direct, the Global Peace Forum again brings to you this wonderful discussion, and we have again a stalwart from the industry with us. Today our topic of discussion is the lethargic diplomacy, and basically it's related to the UN military observership in India and Pakistan, abbreviated as UN MOGIP. And today we have with us one of media's own and finest, the charismatic journalistic entrepreneur who is an experienced journalist and thought leader in print, TV, digital media, news industry, and has launched Sahara Samay, a TV channel, as a member of National Core Group. He has launched and being editor for dailies and periodicals like Rashtriya, Sahara, Sun Star, New Observer Post, The Sunny India, India Post, Sapta Setu, Veer Bhumi. These are in circulations in Delhi, Patna, and Guwahati. He was the one who broke the story of Kargil intrusion on May 15, 1999. In Rashtriya Sahara, first to cover the Bhutan Democracy Report, one of a very few who interviewed Prime Minister I.K. Gujral after his appointment to the PM office. He has authored and translated 7 books, of which for today's discussion's relevance is The Ghati Mein Atank on Kargil. So first book on Kargil intrusion, which was launched by Shri L.K. Advani. He was then the union minister in 2000. He is the recipient of Atal Bihari Vajpayee Award and also the Lok Nayak Jana Prakash International Award for Journalistic Achievements. So we have Mr. Onkareshwar Pandey with us for the discussion on the UN observership in Kashmir. Omkareshwar sir, welcome to Diplomacy Direct's podcast and YouTube channel.
Thank you so much, Vipul. Thank you so much for giving so much of details, which I think I don't deserve.
So, sir, at the onset, could we start with setting some context on today's discussion on this UN observership, that is UN military observership in India and Pakistan, or UN MOGIP as it's called, the background in Kashmir for our Diplomacy Direct audience?
Yeah, of course. So let's begin with some background. As you know, under the scheme of partition provided by the Indian Independence Act of 1947, Kashmir was free to accede to either India or Pakistan. So its accession to India became a matter of dispute between the two countries, and fighting broke out later that year. So fast forwarding the events, a ceasefire line supervised by United Nations military observers, result of which the UN deployed a mission called UNMOGIP. Before that, it was something UNCIP, something like that. So after the 1971 war, the UN Security Council met and on 21st of December 71 adopted a Resolution 307 as one of the ceasefires measures between the two countries, the two nations. Subsequently, India and Pakistan signed an agreement defining a line of control in Kashmir in 1972. So India adopted on the similar line in 1949 Karachi Agreement. It was the line of control was drawn. And since the Simla Agreement of 1972, India adopted a non-recognition policy towards third parties in their bilateral exchanges with Pakistan with regards to Kashmir. So this observership even today has 44 military observers, 25 international civilians personnel, and 47 local civilian staff, where they have observed and reported continued ceasefire violations from Pakistan's side. Yet, India is standing firm on its policy, has lodged no complaints with the UN MOGIP since 1972. Earlier, what was happening that UN forces were allowed to cross the line of control from India to Pakistan side. But after this 1971 war with Bangladesh, at that time, the Mrs. Indira Gandhi government was there in Delhi. So she decided not to allow United Nations military observer groups to cross through LOC to Pakistan. Because the logic was simple. If you can't stop the war between the two countries, then what is the fun you're doing? Why you are deployed here? You're just moving around here and there. You are going from India to Pakistan, and you're doing nothing. You're just taking the complaints and reporting to UN. So basically, the role of United Nations military observer group has been to observe and report to the UN Security Council.
Correct.
But any such agreement has a kind of understanding when you are sitting there, when any third party is deployed there, and that too United Nations Security Council adopted forces are there, and 44 countries military observer are there. So basically the things which are expected is to at least maintain the status quo.
Correct. Also, after the India-Pak war and the resolution 307 that you were talking about, so subsequently India and Pak signed an agreement defining the LOC in 1972, and since then the Simla agreement and the India's non-recognition of the policy towards third parties interference in the bilateral for military observers and everything with UN MOGIP. they are watching Pakistan commit the ceasefire violations. Imran Khan himself says that there are 40,000 plus terrorists within their borders. Hizbul cells are operating along the border. Harkatul Ansar, Jamatul Dawa, all making infiltrations and creating unrest, right? And here we stand to our word, and we don't want any external help, and we can solve this by bilateral talks or sam dam
So,
danbed, anything.
so this is why India stopped complaining to the United Nations, knowingly that it's a fruitless exercise to complain to them. They are not able to do anything. They are not
Correct.
taking any actions. They are not preventing neither terrorism from cross the border, nor you are stopping any kind of escalation of skirmishes on the border.
Correct.
And more importantly, when the UN forces are there, can you imagine the Pakistan was able to lease out a big area like Aksai Chin to China, and the China, the same country who is in the United Nations Security Council.
Correct, sir. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. That's a very good point.
So my point was that after 1972, India stopped complaining to the United Nations. So because the question was what the United Nations is doing in the valley. So it's necessary that we discussed the failure of the United Nations Military Observer Group deployed in India and Pakistan on the line of control.
So, sir, extrapolating into at that sentiment, what can you tell about Modi government's actions towards UNMOGIP's obsolescence and subsequent overtake and reaffirmation and adherence to Simla Agreement from our end?
See, the Modi government is trying its level best to convince the member of the United Nations Security Council that basically what India wants is a reform in the present setup of the United Nations, so that India could get entry into the UN Security Council as a member. And when India becomes the member, it will be easier to raise any issue, or easier to intervene in any issue. And that is what a country like China is trying to stop. Reform of the United Nations. So basically, in the initial stint of this government, the India government also told UNMOGIP to go back and leave the country. But I think they conveyed that we are here with the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council, and if we have to go back, you will have to take another resolution from the UNSC, which is at present, when China is there, he's always ready to veto your resolutions.
Correct.
So it is not feasible right now.
Correct. So in 2018, UN backtracks on role in Kashmir, and then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon spokesperson Stephanie Jurek in 2018 that UN MOGIP observer presence in Kashmir was only mandated to report on the ceasefire between India and Pakistan along the LOC.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what I am saying. This statement itself clarifies that how fruitless this exercise is. You have just deployed 44 military observers from 44 countries to just observe and report, and that too for decades and decades. We have already seen them from last 70 years.
Correct.
It's not a joke. You are spending millions and billions of dollars on them.
Correct. So we speak about lethargic diplomacy. I would rather go ahead and say it's a failed diplomacy on their part. So Pakistan wants to make a spectacle out of India's stance, and in 2017, Pakistani army staged a firing across LOC towards UN vehicles. The ISPR made some futile attempts of bringing the world attention to Kashmir. It reported that Indian forces attacked the UN deployment in POK, right, which soon was trashed by UN by denying the claim. What probes such much desperation on Pakistan's side with UN MOGIP? Has Pakistan's stance on UN MOGIP dented, or India's stance on UN MOGIP dented Pakistan's globalized K plan, and in what way?
This has been Pakistan's very old tactics to attack on the maybe UN MOGIP convoy or their vehicle, or maybe attacking on India's side of the LOC and saying that this was initiated by India. So
Mhm.
their lies has already been exposed several times
Several
at the
times.
international fora. So everybody knows that who initiates. Maybe on attacking on the LOC on Indian side, or attacking on the UN security forces vehicles. This has always been the Pakistan's the tactics to somehow internationalize the issue. Somehow they want that this issue should always be in the limelight.
As an outrageous attempt to meddle in India's internal affairs, Pakistan has questioned India's stand to shut down the United Nations Military Observers Group of India and Pakistan. The Pakistan Foreign Office has said that asking United Nations observers to close their office in New Delhi did not mean that it abolishes the United Nations Security Council's mandate on the Kashmir dispute between the two countries. Pakistan has not just meddled in India's affairs yet again, but has also raised the Kashmir bogey by calling it disputed after the Modi-led government asked the United Nations mission on Kashmir to vacate the government bungalow in New Delhi, as the government felt that the watchdog had outlived its relevance. Now, upping its ante, Pakistan has now asserted that it had never accepted Kashmir's accession to India, saying that the United Nations Security Council mandate still remains till the Kashmir issue is resolved. Remember, India's stand is that role of United Nations Military Observers Group has been overtaken by the Simla Agreement and the consequent establishment of the line of control.
But this has already been exposed several times. There is no need to mention at all about this. So world community by and large has understood it.
Yes. Also, the Western interest in this that Pakistan would have is again the military aid that it gets from US. Again, US has opened its eyes, and things are working on it. So coming now in the next flow to a topic
That was the biggest mistake United States did with Pakistan, and saying that they will be our forefront member in the war against terrorism. So, in the name of becoming an ally to United States in the war against terrorism, Pakistan utilized all its resources, all its aid, whatever it got from the United States in supporting the terrorism in the entire this area, Asian region, not only in India, but also in some other parts of the terrorists were found in even the London blast. So
Correct.
their linkages have been found in several areas. So they have been the Pakistan has been a kind of place where terrorists are grown, terrorists are patronized, and from there they have been creating the terrorism all across the world.
Absolutely. A very evident example to the world is hosting Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad, 1 mile, not even 1 mile away from there is like a counterpart to our National Defense Academy, and that is totally egregious. So that's one point. The next point is Gilgit Baltistan in POK is considered the last mile for the construct of the whole China Pakistan economic corridor, the CPEC. What's UNMOGIP's narrative on the CPEC passing through the POK? Again, it's going to evidently violate this thing. Would it stand by India's side in our opposition regarding this? What is UN's overall stand with this? And isn't it high time to look at this geopolitical change in more broader sense?
This is why I am raising the issue of United Nations role in on the LOC, because this is a complete violation of United Nations Charter. You are deployed there, and one of your member is creating a China-Pakistan economic corridor through the same disputed area. How
Uh-huh.
can?
Correct.
How the other members of United Nations Security Councils are watching this? How they are allowing this to happen? So other members of the UN Security Council should have intervened, that at least your economic corridor should not pass through the area which is already disputed,
Disputed.
and not only disputed, but the UN forces are deployed there.
Deployed there. Absolutely.
So this is completely a violation of United Nations Charter, and this raises the genuinity of the United Nations, and also on its important member, which is China.
So, will UN shift its focus and look into the region in a holistic manner, including Chinese activities, given its salami slicing in regions across India, Nepal, Tajikistan, Vietnam, you name it, right? Again, does China being in UNSC plays an undeterred role, and how is it detrimental to India's efforts bringing peace in the region?
So, if I take your first question at a stance, you talked about United Nations shift its focus and look into the region in a holistic manner. I am not hopeful. I am not seeing that UN is giving any holistic approach to look at the problems in a holistic manner and solve it. I think the old file, which is lying in the United Nations, that some resolution was passed and some secretary general said that this is irrelevant at this time. Any clause of the UN Security Council has not been implemented in the last 70 years, and we have fought at least 4 wars with Pakistan.
Absolutely.
The Pakistan has been able to lease out a big area of Aksai Chin to China, and UN Security Council is watching. UN MOGIP is just observing and reporting. So, what is the use of this? It has completely proven that UN MOGIP's deployment on the both side of India and Pakistan on the line of control is unnecessary, is useless, and they should be sent back.
Yes, it's a complete failure, evidently. So with China salami slicing, and like we just spoke about UN MOGIP's failure. So in 1998, 99. So with this, where I'm heading towards is there is a border agreement that we see. That was signed between a regional communist bloc, right? So Sino-Russian, North Korean tri-point border agreement. Can international diplomacy put its back into signing of similar kind of treaty, obsoleting the McMahon line or such age-old conventions, and bringing a permanent peace to the region? And what efforts or understanding will go into such kind of a treaty?
That's very important treaty between China, Russia, and North Korea, because one thing is common in these 3 countries is that all these 3 are communist countries, and all these 3 are kind of authoritarian kind of governments. So they have a common goal, and another thing is common in these all 3 countries are they all are opposed to unilateralism in the world, and they are opposed to US America. So the China and North Korea and Russia and North Korea and Russia, North Korea, China triangle, they oppose to America. Although they are part of the rhetoric that says that North Korea should be disarmed from all the nuclear arsenals, but on the other side, they will not support any kind of military solution to that.
Yeah. So basically, we see, if not anything, we see ourselves stranded. Exactly the same situation like how Israel is having with three enemies. That is, your Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, and now having the Palestinian skirmishes. So India in near future might face something of this sort. So Mr. Pandey, could you give a free flow view on the UN MOGIP, what its current charter, which is again obsolete? Can there be a new unbiased resolve or a new charter that can go in the region, and possibly as a revision or a mandate to the current events, and bring it back to some kind of a sense?
For that, you will have to go again back to the background of the whole thing when it was decided. When in August 1947, both I told you that when India and Pakistan became independent. So under the scheme of partition provided by the Indian Independence Act of 1947, Kashmir was free to accede to India or Pakistan. Its accession to India became a matter of dispute between two countries, and fighting broke out later that year. So in January 1948, Security Council adopted a resolution which is called number 39 resolution, and they established the United Nations Commission for India and Pakistan, UNCIP, first of all.
Correct.
And the role of the UNCIP was to investigate and mediate the dispute. What they did, what they investigated, what they mediated, nothing happened. So again in April 1948, by its another resolution of 47, the council decided to enlarge the membership of UNCIP and to recommend various measures, including the use of observers to stop the fighting. Understand? First of all, it was UNCIP. Then they felt that no, it should be enlarged, and to send the observers so that they can stop the fighting. And on the recommendation of UNCIP, the Secretary General appointed the military observer advisor to support the commission on military aspects and provided for a group of military. So the basic is this was the constituted the UNMOGIP to stop the fighting.
Correct.
Did
And
the
then,
fighting stopped? It
No.
was not stopped.
No.
So that's why they have been completely failure.
Sir, so basically from UNCIP to UNMOGIP, and then a change of a bit of a tweak in the charter. So we see there is a precedence of a mandate addition or a mandate change. Can we see a similar thing now? As we are looking into the same region, can we look at an addition in this, looking at the entire region, which now encompasses India, China, and Pakistan together? And can this observership try to bring in some kind of a geopolitical stability? And what can we expect from them?
I don't see any role of the UN at any point. UN have already shown their failureness in this, and India has repeatedly been saying that this is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. No third party is accepted. Even US has repeatedly offered to mediate between India and Pakistan, but India has simply and categorically denied that. So we do not, as a country, we do not accept any third party mediation, whether it's United Nations or whether it's China or any other country. It has to be decided between the two countries, and that's why I'm saying that United Nations Military Observer Group also should be asked to come back by the UN Security Council members also, and they should independently and honestly, they should assess, they should analyze that what has they been doing since last 70 years.
So basically, as a summation of our conversation, we just see that point number one, that we have that UN Charter, though with such a resolve, has failed, and it's it's kept on failing for all this while. Second thing is the current situation, the geopolitical, instability in the region. There is no way other than a bilateral talk or a direct diplomacy angle to solve it, and UN cannot do anything about it. So thank you so much, Mr. Pandey, to join me here at Diplomacy Direct. And basically, this channel is just a small effort in helping the IAS, the IPS, or the Union Public Service Commission's, students or people, those who want to join. To stay in touch with the geopolitics, also for people, those who are interested in geopolitics, and take an active cognizance of what's going on, and do whatever small bit that they can do, and serve their country. So, Mr. Pandey, thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vipul, and thank you so much for Diplomacy Direct for taking out this great initiative, because this is very, very important for India's communication strategy and communication warfare also. We have been failing. We have not been taking up the issues like this. And this is very, very important. At international level, you will have to expose them. What is happening on the ground, what India is facing is not the concern of any other country. You will have to raise the issue. You will have to tell that, look, what your UN security forces are doing here. So it's you and me who has to raise this issue. It's India government who has to raise this issue. So that's why I'm very, very thankful to you for Diplomacy Direct to raise such issue and giving me an opportunity to talk to you, to speak my views and thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. This is how we take our voice to the global community. Thank you so much. You have a great day ahead. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.